one thing we look for in talent is sort of hybrid people who combine very rare skill sets together that make them truly one of one. I think it's a really important point to make of like sometimes like perfectly unrelated talents that are actually very valuable in combination. I'll give you an example. I think someone like Justin Barad is a valedictorian surgeon trained at Harvard who also happened to teach himself how to code at age 13 and develop, AAA games at EA. And he started a VR surgical training suite to address the training gap he saw as a resident. You got to ask yourself how many people, kind of like match that background. That's exactly, can't be, many. He might be the only one, really. Or like Tim Novikov at Perceptron, who was worked with the original Google research team that invented the transformer model and launched Google Photos, but is also a former high school teacher. And he did his PhD in sort of pedagogy teaching and combined those skills to sort of launch an AI tutor for kids. Like how many, it's like very rare, I would say. Very possibly like there's only a few people in the world who kind of, and it almost, for people with those backgrounds, it almost feels like their life's work has sort of, led them to this singular moment of creating this specific company. And it also guarantees, I think, this person they're going to have sort of an authentic passion about this problem space. And also, I think, not to be underrated, likely has this internal narrative compelling them forward, right? Where others would give up. Right. If everything has led you to this one point, right, you got to feel like it's your manifest destiny to figure this thing out and make it work. And I think the power of an internal narrative is something that's severely underrated as a driver of persistence in many cases.
And it sounds like then there's sort of two key parts to sort of talent identification. And maybe this goes into what's going to be a great entrepreneur as well. But it's like one part is you got to identify the person. Okay, so fine. Like I can identify people, and I want to talk maybe more about that too. Right? Like, there's thousands of former Olympians out there. He's still only choosing 1% of them who he might want to go after. So it's sort of a question, but we'll come back to that too, which is like, but then so that's one part. Part two, it sounds like, is this ability to sell people on the why. Define that a little bit more, right? Okay, he's dogged, great. But if you're dogged and you can't tell a story, it probably doesn't matter. So clearly he's got a skill set on that front too.
Oh yeah, he's a masterful storyteller, that's for sure. We like to joke whenever we get in meetings with him. It's like success if you can interject like 2 points over the course of an hour meeting. He's just like I would say the style of storytelling he has it's kind of like mad scientist, where his domain is venture. Like he's studied every single permutation of venture capital back to like its origins. He worked at Bessemer back in the day, which I think is like it's the oldest 100-year-old venture fund with kind of like all of the longitudinal data. He knows every single fund out there. He's studied like their specific model. He's interviewed at one point. He actually wrote, I think, an HBR article where he had interviewed something like hundreds of people within the venture ecosystem on like, what is your strategy? What's your differentiation? How do you generate returns and so forth? So
should people look that up? It sounds like it's probably still, I would assume, still relevant to like learn from that.
Yeah. It was one of the defining articles on like back in the day on ranking. It got some press on ranking kind of venture funds. Using it's kind of like a similar concept as PageRank, which is like there's network proximity, to talent nodes and what have you. So this is something he's been studying forever, and like when I first joined, he was, like 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, we're just like both working away. He would just stop what he's doing and he would like map out the entire venture ecosystem for me for no reason. He'd just be like, here's the matrix of how I think about the venture landscape. These are different stages. These are different types of archetypes of firms. Like, here are the different players. Here are how he thinks to lead. He just kind of like mapped out everything in his mind before he kind of chose this model. And I think it comes across in his storytelling that he, is certainly something that we look for in founders as well, is the ability to kind of like go, 5 layers deep. He definitely has that.